And as we've been reporting, the effects of this global pandemic are being felt around the world. Tonight, we examine its impact on refugees and orphans in the Middle East, Southeast Asia, and North Africa. Joining me now to talk about the spread of the coronavirus and how it's affecting these vulnerable populations is Chris Palusky. He is president and CEO of Bethany Christian Services, a global nonprofit that supports children and families. Chris, thank you so much for joining me. You're joining me now by Skype in Grand Rapids, Michigan. We appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you.
I know that so many countries around the globe are being hard hit by this pandemic. What are you hearing from your folks?
We're hearing that, well, first of all, we're dealing with vulnerable populations, which are refugees. So they're some of the most vulnerable people on earth. We have a global refugee crisis. You've got 71 million people displaced. You've got, 28 million refugees from those, meaning they've been pushed out from the borders of their countries. And many of these, the majority of them, are women, children, and old people. So we're seeing the vulnerable, the fragile, suddenly become even more fragile and more vulnerable.
You talked on that, how it's impacting those refugees. Any more word on what's happening to them?
Sure. We're starting to see the spread of the virus in places like Africa and different places in Asia. We are trying to prepare, and many organizations are trying to prepare for this domino effect. So in places like refugee camps, we are trying to prepare for what we're going to see is one domino hitting 2, hitting 4, hitting 8, and it's going to spread like wildfire because people don't have access to social or distancing from one another. They don't have access to great sanitation facilities. They don't have access to constant hand washing. So we're trying to prepare as best we can with getting the right supplies and also making sure people have access to health care in these very vulnerable and difficult situations.
Yeah, Chris, I know your organization, like so many other faith-based communities, also provides resources for international adoptions. Has the pandemic impacted those services?
They have. In fact, we have about 24 that are on hold from China right now because there's this travel ban. So we have parents that are waiting to travel to China to pick up their children, and their children are special placement need kids. So these have special needs. But there's a travel ban, so they're not able to travel. They're not able to get their child, but we are working with the Chinese government and also in constant contact with the family so they have the best up-to-date information on when they can travel and the state of their child at the present time.
Yeah, we've been talking here on EWTN a lot about the need for faith, especially during this time. Can you talk about your faith and how it's helping you during this difficult time?
Absolutely. At Bethany Christian Services, that's the core of who we are. That's what we're about. We are here to serve God, and we believe that we have the opportunity to be the hands and feet of Christ in difficult situations. So right now, we pray that God uses us, keeps us safe, but uses us to serve vulnerable populations like refugees because, you know what? Jesus was a refugee. He served the most vulnerable. And if you look at, we call ourselves a Matthew 25:40 organization, meaning that we want to take care of the least of these or the ignored and the forgotten. So our faith is our guide, it's our direction, and it's who and what we're about.
Chris, thank you so much for talking with us and providing some insight for us on your organization and what you do and what the refugees are going through. Chris Palusky, President and CEO of Bethany Christian Services. Thank you.
Thank you.